Hey, welcome to Thought Thursday with Pastor Josh. A thought is the product of mental activity, that which one thinks. It is a single act or product of thinking, idea, or notion. We're going to talk about what that looks like today on this edition of Thought Thursday. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on this last day of our journey through the book Unoffendable for the week. We'll pick up again next week. We'll have our Fun Friday podcast tomorrow, and we'll pick up with chapter 5 next week. And so we are on chapter 4 today, where it says artists see things, and this is from Brant Hansen's book Unoffendable that we're kind of journeying through together. So he begins the chapter this way, where he says offense obscures vision, and I'm going to jump a couple pages over, and I want to read this story that he shares about a counselor friend he knows named Al Andrews, who tells a story about a real estate adventure he and his wife embarked on early in their marriage. Says they saw a relatively inexpensive house for sale in the newspaper. Called the realtor and visited. It was a disaster scene. The yard was full of motorcycle parts and hadn't been mowed in apparently years. The agent told them, "Oh, isn't this great? With a little work, you can put a path here and a flower bed there, and it'll be lovely." And then they went inside, and again, disaster. A horrible, ugly fireplace in the living room was doubling as a garage for motorcycles. This could be a wonderful living room, the agent gushed. You could pull up the carpets, get this clean, do this other thing, and then that, and so it went during the whole tour. It was one disaster after another, accompanied by one realtor spin control idea after another. Thing is, Al actually bought the house, and a couple of years later, they had their agent friend back to their house for a dinner. Sure enough, there was a path and a flower bed, and the living room had beautiful flowers and a gorgeous fireplace, and the whole thing was just as she said it could be. Beautiful. Al told me that he asked her, "How did you do that?" "How did you know?" "The grass was 4 feet tall. There was garbage everywhere. The windows were covered or broken." He says her simple answer was, "Al, I can see." And then Brant says, God sees things we don't. He must, because he hasn't vaporized us yet. I don't know how that works theologically, but it says he must look at us a seriously messed up world and still see what can be done with it. He sees what it can and will be, which hopefully that's a huge encouragement to us in the season that we're in as a world right now, with everything going on, especially as a nation. And so he says he apparently sees us the same way. He's not just an artist, of course, like Chris or like his friend. He says he's also a father. Good dads are like that. You may be a dropout, underachiever, or whatever, and a good dad will still love you, but he'll push you to change because he sees a different you ahead. He sees a finished product, an adult who uses his or her talents and is a blessing to others. He sees something wonderful. And so he says we can see where choosing unoffendability frees us to love people in risky and profound ways. And I love that, this idea that we could love people differently if we saw differently. I think for most of us, especially right now with everything going on, as we talk about racism and the different struggles within our country, I think that seeing right now is a huge issue. Seeing clearly is a huge issue, and that's why I think there's so much, offense going on right now, is because people aren't really seeing clearly, and they're not looking at each other clearly, and so even as he kind of talks about all this, he talks about Peter and the betrayal of Peter, and how Jesus saw more in Peter, that God sees things we don't. We can risk loving people, incredibly difficult, insulting people because he loves us. And he says that person you find so offensive, somehow God sees something there, something you don't. Ask him what it is. Maybe he'll show you. I bet he wants to. And that would be my challenge today, is that, artists see things. And our God is a creative God, and he sees things in what he's created. And his challenge is for us to see it too. And so if there's people around you that just seem to rub you the wrong way, maybe there's some people that you're holding some offense or anger towards, can I just challenge you? Would you allow God to help you see them differently? Ask the Lord to help you. this weekend, even as we prepare for next week, just ask the Lord to help you, to do a work in you so that your eyes would see differently. And I really pray and hope that and believe that He will do that as you ask Him. So thanks for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again this next week for another week of Unoffendable by Brant Hansen. Don't forget to tune in for our Friday podcast tomorrow as we share really a cool place that we went recently, and some video and pictures and just a little bit of our journey that I think you'll enjoy. So thanks for joining me. Glad to have you with us. We'll see you soon.